Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be discussing about the claim with respect to India being the fourth most equal country in the world. This claim is made on the Gini coefficient measurement that has come to light. So we will understand why this claim is wrong about India. Now there are various manners in which we can prove it wrong. One would be the technical manner wherein we explain as to why this particular measuring process of Gini coefficient is wrong. But apart from that, the lived experience of the people is also very important. So we will not just look into the technicality of it at the very end, but before that we will look at why it is not true with respect to what we are experiencing in our day-to-day life in India. So let's get started with this news. What is the news all about? As I mentioned, the news is about we claiming that we are the fourth most equal country in the world. How are we claiming that? It is understood that India has a Gini coefficient of 25.5, or you can say 0.255. Right, now in Gini coefficient, what is Gini coefficient? We'll see that as well. But understand here, these are the not top three countries, but rather this is just to depict that we are doing better than them, and them. Better than UK, China and USA. Right, so it does sound weird, but this is what is being claimed. So let us try to understand whether this claim is correct or not. Before we move on, a very important announcement with respect to the new batches that will be starting from 9th and 11th of August. So before it's too late, you can get yourself enrolled and get coached by the experts in UPSC industry and increase your chances of selection. When you enroll, there are certain advantages to enroll in Legacy IAS Academy. There will be comprehensive coverage of the syllabus, as well as the most important thing I believe is the one-on-one mentorship and doubt solving that will be done by the same teachers that you saw for their respective subjects. Then moving ahead, regular interaction would be there, of course, with the teachers, and the batch strength is of only 40 students. That means no more than 40 students will be there in any of our batches. There will be daily answer writing practice, test series for both prelims as well as mains, and a 360-degree approach for covering current affairs. What do we do in this? Of course, all the current affairs magazine, this, that will be provided, but very importantly, one entire day of the week is given completely for current affairs, wherein the entire day the current affairs live classes go on in order to cover your entire current affairs comprehensively. So if you want to enroll with us, you can download our new app. The provision is there, or you can call on this number or log on to www.legacyIAS.com. So now let's continue with our news and understand the entire topic altogether, starting first from what is the Gini coefficient. So Gini coefficient is nothing but a measure that is calculated based on the Lorentz curve. So Gini coefficient is calculated from the Lorentz curve. So what is Lorentz curve is what we have to understand. Lorentz curve is nothing but a plot of graph between the cumulative income and the cumulative population. So it is what? It is the cumulative population on this side and the cumulative income on this side. It's a plot between the two. Now, if a country is completely or perfectly equal, what will happen? Remember this, mark this down, note this down, very important for your prelims. If a country is perfectly equal, that means each individual earns the exact same amount. In that case, the plot would be a straight line which is diagonal in nature, right? This would be that straight line. But if a country is completely unequal, then what happens? Then only one person earns the entire income and the rest of them, they earn absolutely zero. So what will happen? No person will earn it. No person will earn it. It's the last person that earns it. So how will your plot look like? In Perfect equality, it was a straight line. In perfect inequality, no one is earning, but the last person earns. So at the last, it will go up. So this will be your line of perfect equality, and this becomes your line of perfect inequality. But in reality, no country is perfectly equal or perfectly unequal. So reality lies somewhere in between the two, which, for example, could be this line. So the actual plot of a country with respect to cumulative income and cumulative population is known as the Lorenz curve. So this is the Lorenz curve. Now from Lorenz curve, how do you calculate the Gini coefficient? Gini coefficient is equal to the area, the ratio of, in fact, the ratio of area between the line of perfect equality and Lorenz curve, ratio of area between line of perfect equality and Lorenz curve divided by area between line of perfect equality and Lorenz curve divided by the area between the line of perfect equality and perfect inequality. Area between line of perfect equality and line of perfect inequality. Line of perfect equality and line of perfect inequality, the area between can also be triangle X, Y, and area of triangle X, Y, and Z. This is how you calculate the Gini coefficient. Now, very interestingly, if a country is perfectly equal, then what will happen? Then this curve that is there, this curve of the country will be similar to the line of perfect equality. Then what will happen? The area between line of perfect equality and Lorenz curve will become 0 because both the lines will be the same. Hence, for perfect equality, Gini coefficient is equals to 0. What about perfect inequality? If there is perfect inequality in the country, then the Lorenz curve would be this one, which is nothing but the line of perfect inequality. So what will happen? The numerator and denominator in that case will become same. So for perfect inequality, the Gini coefficient will be equal to 1. That means higher the Gini coefficient, higher is the inequality. That means it is better to have a lower Gini coefficient for a country. So this is what a Gini coefficient is all about. Now, what is the issue with this? Now, the technical issue I'll tell you at the very end. Before this, even after the claim that we are the fourth most equal, let us see what are the lived experiences which tell us we are not that equal. We have huge amount of inequality among us. So what are the lived experiences? So in 2022-23, there have been a lot of studies. So one of the data was 1% of people are earning around 22.6% of the wealth. Now, the issue here is that this is the ratio, this is the data, but does it cover everyone? Does it take into account everyone? Absolutely not. So the data can be mismatched. Anyhow, this is high, but it covers less than 10% of the adult population. It is not covering the entire population. So that is an issue. At the same time, India has massive informal sector. Right, so that is why there would be underreporting of inequality. Massive informal sector, people working on minuscule minimum least of the least wages, their data would not be captured. So what will happen? Inequality would be underreported. Further critiques are underreporting even by the big players. The rich people also might not be reporting. You would not get the data completely about them. Huge amount of informality. High tax threshold means only up to, after 4 lakh rupees only you are basically filing for tax. Even in GST, after 25 or 50 lakh, you are filing for the tax when the revenue is that much, or else you are not. So a lot of people are out of the tax embed, are out of the tax net. They are out of the organized sector. They are in the inorganized sector. So their income is not taken into consideration. So basically, it is the inequality with respect to the people who are in the net of the data capturing, which again makes it, let's say loop-sided basically. Then you have the multiple types of inequality that are there, which are not taken into account. Economic is definitely taken into account, but we will see what is the issue even with that at the very end. But you have gender, health, educational, digital, banking, and social. So in social, you can have, for example, caste-based inequality, etc. These inequalities are not captured. They also make you unequal and hamper your financial situation as well. If you look for an example with respect to gender inequality, we are rather going backwards. So how are we going backwards? This shows the overall gender gap and how much time we will take to cover the overall gender gap. In 2020, we thought in 100 years, but then it suddenly increased to 136, 132, 131. That means we would require 131 years to cover the gender gap that exists. In economic domain, we would require 169 years. In political domain, 162 years. In education, it is the least, but still 16 years. Here it is hundreds of years is what we will require to cover this kind of inequality. Now, what are the policy implications of such data which is not necessarily true, right? The implication is, using that data, if you make certain policies, you will undermine the urgency of certain welfare needs. You would mislead prioritization. You will prioritize something else rather than this, thinking that we are already equal. So that is an issue. It will reduce international and domestic pressure of reforms. So for the government, it would be some relaxation thing because the pressure is reduced, but for the real ground reality of the country, that would not be good because the pressure would be reduced over here. So the urgency would not be created. Now, before we end, one important point I'm going to tell you with respect to the technicality of it is that the Gini coefficient calculated for India, we understood Lorentz curve, income inequality, and income inequality it shows, and it's a plot between cumulative income and cumulative population. So the first picture that you saw in this lecture, the 4 flags which were there, including India's flag, India's inequality is measured based on consumption, whereas other countries' inequality was measured based on income. So that is why India looks to be more equal even though it is not. Why is that so? Because when you are rich, do you consume all your income? No, you invest, you create wealth. So you consume very less. But if you are poor, let's say earning 200 rupees per day, will you have much of savings? No, everything is consumed. So since you are taking consumption expenditure, you are not taking into account the investments, the investment expenditure, the investments, the wealth creation, etc. of the rich people, as a result of which there is also a technical flaw in this calculation. Thank you.